She walked on stage barefoot, hungry and trembling. Her clothes were torn, her voice shaking, but her eyes carried fire. When the host asked her name, she didn't boast, she didn't beg. She just whispered, "If I sing well, will you give me a plate of food?" The audience went silent. You could hear the sound of someone swallowing, the echo of her words bouncing around the hall. People came here for entertainment, not for heartbreak. But what happened next, no one expected. The lights dimmed. She closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and sang. And in that moment, that broken, starving girl made the whole world forget their own hunger. Her voice was raw, angelic, and painfully beautiful. Every note told a story of nights without shelter, of rain-soaked pavements, of dreams buried under dust. When she finished, no one clapped. They couldn't. They were too stunned, too moved. And then, one by one, people stood up, crying, applauding, throwing money, food, jackets, anything they had. That night, she didn't just earn a plate of food. She earned the world's heart. But the truth behind who she really was, and why she was on that stage, would leave everyone speechless. The city's lights flickered under a cold drizzle that night. Cameras rolled, stage lights glared, and the audience murmured with excitement. Another episode of The Rising Star, a show where dreams were born and sometimes broken. But outside, at the edge of the line, stood a girl no one noticed. Barefoot, shivering, clutching a torn backpack like it held her whole life. Her name was Aaliyah. Security guards eyed her suspiciously. Her clothes were dusty, her hair tangled. "Contestants enter from the left," one barked. She nodded quietly, whispering a thank you that went unheard. Inside, performers rehearsed scales and stretched their voices, sipping from bottles of spring water. Aaliyah just sat in the corner, watching. Her stomach growled, but she didn't complain. She hadn't eaten since yesterday morning. When her turn came, a producer stopped her at the curtain. "Do you even have a song prepared?" he asked, half smirking. She looked down. I just want to sing," she said softly. "If I sing well, will you give me a plate of food?" He froze, unsure whether to laugh or feel guilty. Then with a sigh, he nodded toward the stage. "Go ahead, kid." The audience laughed when she stepped out. Whispers floated through the crowd. "Is she lost? She's not dressed for the stage." But Aaliyah didn't hear them. She only saw the microphone and the small bowl of fruit placed on the judge's table. Her lips quivered as she adjusted the mic stand. The host smiled awkwardly. "What's your name?" "Aaliyah," she said. I'm here to sing." "All right, Aaliyah," the host said, trying to keep it light. "Let's hear what you've got." She closed her eyes. And when her voice came out, it wasn't weak. It was fire and velvet. A sound so full of pain it sliced through laughter, through judgment, through every camera lens. Her song wasn't one anyone had heard before. It was a story, her story, wrapped in melody. A story about nights spent on sidewalks, of watching people eat through diner windows, of believing that one day her voice could buy her more than pity. By the second verse, the room fell silent. The judges, who'd spent the night critiquing pitch and posture, now just listened. Tears shimmered in the spotlight. When the last note faded, she didn't wait for applause. She stepped back, her head bowed low. "Was it good enough?" she asked quietly. "For the food, I mean." No one spoke. Then a single clap, broke the silence. Followed by another. And another. Until the entire hall erupted into a standing ovation. The host's eyes glistened. He handed her the bowl of fruit himself, but by then, offers were pouring in, people from the audience coming forward with money, meals, coats, hugs. She smiled shyly, overwhelmed, whispering, "Thank you," over and over again. But behind the camera, something else was happening. One of the judges, a famous producer named Marcus Kane, couldn't stop starring. Not at her voice. At her face. There was something familiar. Something he hadn't seen in years. After the show, while reporters crowded around, Aaliyah tried to slip away quietly. But Marcus caught her near the back exit. "Aaliyah," he called softly. She turned, startled. You remind me of someone," he said. "What's your last name?" She hesitated. "I don't have one, not anymore." He frowned. "Where are your parents?" Her eyes dropped to the ground. "Gone, both." Marcus swallowed hard. "Did your mother ever sing?" he asked. Aaliyah's eyes widened slightly. "She used to before she got sick. She sang in a restaurant downtown." "Why?" Marcus took a step back, his face pale. Because years ago, before fame and fortune, he'd known a woman, a singer named Naomi. The same voice, the same eyes. And in that moment, it hit him. The girl on stage wasn't just a stranger. She was Naomi's daughter. The daughter he never knew he had. The rain outside had turned into a storm, tapping on the studio windows like 1,000 tiny drums. Aaliyah sat in the hallway, clutching her small bowl of fruit, her voice echoing in her head. "If I sing well, will you give me a plate of food?" She still couldn't believe what had happened. The applause, the lights, the kindness. It all felt like a dream she'd wake up from any second. But someone was watching her, from behind the frosted glass window of the production office. Marcus Kane stood there, his heart pounding in a way it hadn't in years. That voice, that face, the way she looked up shyly when thanked. It was like seeing Naomi again, the woman who once changed his life, and then disappeared with a secret she never told. He watched as one of the assistants offered Aaliyah a taxi voucher, but she politely refused. "I walk," she said. "I don't live far." Marcus knew the look in her eyes, the look of someone pretending she was fine. That night he couldn't sleep. He went through old photos, his fingers trembling as he found one from decades ago, Naomi, standing under neon lights, holding a microphone. In the corner of the photo, a man, him. And behind her, a small pendant shaped like a half-moon. He zoomed in. Aaliyah had worn that same pendant on stage tonight. The next morning, Marcus called his assistant. "Find out everything about the girl named Aaliyah, where she came from, who she is." The assistant hesitated. "Sir, she didn't fill out any forms, no last name, no address, just Aaliyah." Marcus exhaled sharply. "Then start from the streets, find her." Meanwhile, Aaliyah sat under a bridge near the train station, singing softly to herself. The fruit bowl was empty now, but she didn't care. For the first time in years, she felt seen. Passers-by slowed down to listen. A few coins clinked into her open bag. Her voice drifted through the cold night air, echoing like a forgotten prayer. A small boy approached her, dirty-faced and curious. "Miss, you're the girl from TV, right?" She smiled faintly. "I guess so." "Why are you here then?" he asked. "Don't they pay you?" Aaliyah laughed softly. "Not yet." But deep down, she didn't expect anything. Fame wasn't for people like her. It was for the ones with homes, names and stories people believed. As she sang, a black SUV parked quietly across the street. Inside, Marcus watched from the back seat. He didn't want to scare her. He just needed to understand. He'd spent the entire day tracing leads, talking to local shelters. He'd learned that she'd been moving from place to place since her mother died 2 years ago, never staying long enough to be noticed. When she finished singing, he stepped out of the car and walked toward her slowly. She recognized him instantly, the judge from the show. "Mr. Kane," she whispered, "I'm sorry, was I not supposed to sing here?" He smiled gently. No, you can sing anywhere, I just wanted to talk." She blinked, confused. "About the show." "About you," he said. They sat on a bench nearby, under a flickering streetlight. Marcus offered her his coat, but she refused. "You don't have to," she said. I want to, he replied quietly. After a pause, he asked, that pendant you wear, where did you get it? Her fingers brushed the half-moon charm. My mother, she said. She wore it every night when she sang, before she got sick. Marcus's throat tightened. What was her name? He whispered. Naomi. It was like the world froze around him. Every raindrop, every passing car, every heartbeat silent. She used to talk about a man, Aaliyah continued softly. Said he helped her once, said he was kind, but that she never saw him again. She smiled faintly. I think he must have been special. Marcus looked away, hiding the storm behind his eyes. I think she was the special one, he said. He wanted to tell her right then that he was that man, that she was his daughter. But something stopped him. Maybe it was guilt, maybe fear. He'd built his empire while Naomi struggled alone. How could he just walk in now, after all these years, and claim to be her father? So he made a promise instead. I'm going to help you, he said, not because of pity, but because the world needs to hear you. Aaliyah shook her head. You don't have to. I want to, he interrupted. Come to the studio tomorrow, let's record your song. Her eyes widened. You mean for real? He smiled, for real. The next morning, Aaliyah walked into the studio with the same torn clothes, but a new light in her eyes. The producers whispered, as Marcus personally escorted her in. They didn't understand why the country's most powerful music mogul was giving this homeless girl a shot. But Marcus didn't care. He watched as she stepped into the recording booth, slipped on the headphones, and began to sing. This time, her voice wasn't trembling. It was stronger, filled with hope. Each note carried emotion, truth, and something no auto-tune could ever fake. When she finished, the room was silent again. Marcus looked through the glass, smiling faintly. You just gave this studio its soul back, he said into the intercom. Aaliyah grinned, wiping a tear from her cheek. But as the final notes played back, she noticed Marcus staring at the photo on his desk, a photo of Naomi. And something clicked in her mind. Later that evening, when Marcus stepped out, she walked into his office quietly. Her eyes fell on the picture, Naomi's face smiling beside him. Her mother. The air left her lungs. The truth was right there, framed in gold. The man who had given her a chance wasn't a stranger after all. She sat down slowly, trembling, whispering to herself. All this time, it was him. A week later, The Rising Star aired its biggest live episode yet. Crowds filled the arena. Cameras rolled, lights flared, and the air buzzed with energy. But behind the curtains, Aaliyah's heart raced for another reason entirely. She hadn't spoken to Marcus since she'd found that photo in his office. The image haunted her, Naomi's radiant smile beside the man who had become her mentor. Her father. He'd known, she thought, he must have known. And yet he'd said nothing. The stage manager tapped her shoulder. You're up next. Aaliyah nodded numbly. Her hands trembled as she gripped the microphone. Tonight she wasn't just singing, she was deciding. Out front, Marcus sat among the judges, his expression calm, but his mind was chaos. Every night since she left his office, he'd rehearsed the words he'd never said. I knew your mother, I should have been there, I'm sorry. But how do you confess a lifetime of silence in a few seconds of truth? The announcer's voice boomed. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to The Rising Star. Tonight, a girl who touched millions of hearts returns with her own original song. The audience cheered as the lights dimmed. A single spotlight hit the center of the stage. Aaliyah stepped forward, barefoot once again, wearing the same half-moon pendant that once belonged to Naomi. But something in her face had changed. The timid girl was gone. In her place stood a woman, ready to reveal the truth. The music began, soft piano notes echoing like raindrops. Her voice came through, fragile at first, then strong, rising with every line. Musical note, you left before I knew your name. But your shadow stayed, your silence came. And though the nights were cold and long, I found your face inside my song. Musical note. Marcus froze. The lyrics pierced through him like shards of memory. He looked at her and she looked back. Her gaze didn't waver this time. Every verse was a confession. Every chorus a wound reopened. Musical note, I sang for love I never knew. For hands that should have held me too. And if you hear me now somehow, just say you see me now. Musical note. The crowd was mesmerized. They thought it was art. Marcus knew it was truth. By the time the final note faded, tears streamed down her cheeks. The room erupted into applause, thunderous, endless. But Aaliyah didn't smile. She turned to Marcus, her voice shaking as she spoke into the mic. This song was for someone I lost. Someone who could have changed everything if he'd just been there. The audience went quiet. Marcus's throat closed. He stood slowly, his hands trembling. He took off his judge's headset and walked toward the stage. The cameras followed. Every screen across the country showed the same image, the music mogul and the street girl, face to face. Aaliyah's eyes glistened. You knew my mother, she whispered. It wasn't a question. Marcus nodded, his voice breaking. Yes, I did. She was the love of my life. The audience gasped. And you, he paused, his words trembling. You're her daughter. Aaliyah took a step back, tears spilling freely. Why didn't you tell me? Marcus swallowed hard. Because I was afraid that after all the years I wasn't there, I didn't deserve to be. The lights above flickered softly, the world narrowing to just them. Aaliyah's voice cracked. I used to dream that my father would find me, that one day someone would see me and say, you belong. She looked up, meeting his eyes. Do I belong now, Mr. Kane? He stepped closer. You always did, he said softly, even when I didn't know it. The audience was silent, not a single whisper. Every heart in the room was suspended between their breaths. Marcus dropped to one knee, pulling out the old pendant he'd found years ago, the other half of her mother's moon charm. He placed it gently in her palm. Your mother kept half, he said. I kept the other. I guess it took a lifetime for the two halves to find each other again. Aaliyah's tears turned to laughter, soft, trembling laughter. She clutched the pendants together, the pieces clicking perfectly into a full moon. The crowd erupted. People cheered, cried, hugged strangers beside them. The show that started as a search for talent had turned into something far greater, a reunion written by fate itself. Marcus wrapped his arms around her, whispering, You don't have to sing for food anymore, baby girl. You'll sing because the world needs your voice. She held onto him tightly, her voice muffled in his chest. I just wanted you to hear me. I did, he whispered, and I'll never stop listening again. Later that night, social media exploded with clips of their embrace. Headlines flooded the internet. Homeless girl finds her father on live TV. The song that united a family and a nation. But away from the noise in a quiet studio room, Aaliyah sat by the window, watching the sunrise. For the first time in years, she wasn't hungry. For the first time ever, she wasn't alone. Marcus entered, 2 cups of coffee in hand. She smiled. You really don't sleep, do you? He chuckled. Guess I've got years of missed breakfasts to make up for. They sat in silence, watching the light spill over the city. Aaliyah hummed softly, the same melody she sang the first night he saw her. Marcus smiled. You sound like her. Aaliyah looked at him, eyes glowing. No, she said gently, I sound like us. Months passed. Winter melted into spring, and with it, Aaliyah's life transformed completely. The girl who once sang for food now sang for millions. Her story had gone viral, shared by news anchors, bloggers, and strangers across continents. But fame wasn't what she wanted. She wanted meaning. That's when Marcus approached her with an idea. They sat together one quiet morning in the studio, the same one where her journey began. Sunlight poured through the tall windows, catching the golden dust in the air. "I was thinking," he said, sipping his coffee, "what if we build something that lasts? Something for kids like you, kids who have a voice but no place to use it." Aaliyah's eyes lit up. "You mean like a music school?" Marcus nodded. "More than that, a foundation, a home for dreamers who just need one person to believe in them." She smiled, the kind of smile that carried both gratitude and peace. "What would we call it?" she asked. He looked at the pendant around her neck, the full moon now whole again. "Half Moon Foundation," he said softly, "for the ones still searching for their other half." Aaliyah reached across the table and took his hand. "Let's do it," she whispered. The grand opening happened 6 months later in the heart of the city. The same city that had once walked past her as she sang on cold sidewalks. Now, billboards lit up with her name. ALIYHKANE, from STRETS 2 stars. But she didn't stand on stage that day as a celebrity. She stood as a symbol. Children filled the courtyard, kids from orphanages, from shelters, from every forgotten corner. They laughed, they sang, they played guitars with missing strings. And Aaliyah, standing in the middle of them, smiled wider than ever. Marcus watched from the side, pride shining in his eyes. Naomi would have loved this, he thought. She'd always believed that music could heal what words couldn't. That evening, as the crowd settled, the lights dimmed. Aaliyah took the stage again, barefoot like always. She held the microphone and said, "A year ago, I sang just to survive. Tonight, I sing so that no one else has to." The audience fell silent. And then her first original anthem began, "The Hungry Have Voices." Musical note, from broken streets to golden skis. We learn to dream, we learn to rise. No plate too small, no heart too poor. We sing for love forevermore, musical note. Her voice soared, blending with a chorus of children behind her, each one holding a small half-moon pendant the foundation had given them. The song built layer by layer, until it felt like the entire city was breathing with her. Every lyric was a promise, every note a prayer. By the final verse, Marcus couldn't hold back his tears. It wasn't sadness, it was release. All the years of guilt, silence, and loss had finally turned into something beautiful. When the song ended, the applause shook the ground. The crowd rose as one, a sea of lights and hands lifted toward her. Aaliyah bowed deeply, then looked toward Marcus. Their eyes met, the same unspoken bond that began with a single question. "If I sing well, will you give me a plate of food?" Now her voice carried the answer. "You gave me the world." Months later, her song topped charts across the globe. But what mattered most to Aaliyah wasn't fame. It was the letter she received. From a boy in Kenya. "Your story made me sing again." From a girl in India. "My parents wanted me to stop dreaming. I showed them your video. They changed their minds." From a street kid in Chicago. "I thought no one saw me until I saw you." Each message became fuel, a reminder that stories heal in ways even songs can't. One night, long after another studio session, Aaliyah sat on the rooftop overlooking the city. Marcus joined her, 2 mugs of hot cocoa in hand. The moon hung full and bright, the same moon that had followed her through every dark night. "Funny," she said quietly, "how everything started because I was hungry." Marcus chuckled. "You still are, just for different things now." She grinned. "Yeah, for hope, for change." He nodded, watching the lights below. "Your mother once told me something," he said. She said, "Music isn't about perfect notes, it's about who's listening." Aaliyah looked at him, "And who's listening now?" He smiled, "The world." They sat in silence as the wind carried the faint echo of children practicing downstairs. Their laughter drifted upward, pure, untamed, beautiful. For Aaliyah, it wasn't the applause that mattered anymore. It was the sound of others finding their voice. She leaned back, closed her eyes, and whispered into the night, "For you, Mama, we made it." The wind seemed to answer with a soft hum, a familiar lullaby Naomi used to sing. A year later, a mural appeared on the wall outside the foundation. A young girl holding a microphone in one hand and a bowl of food in the other, her shadow forming a perfect circle, a full moon. Underneath, painted in bold letters, were the words that started it all. "If I sing well, will you give me a plate of food?" And below that, in smaller letters, she sang and gave the world a voice. Soft piano music echoes one last time. Musical note, we don't sing for survival anymore, we sing for each other. Musical note.